incredibly busy. So I hope that those joining find this useful. And yeah, it absolutely is an opportunity to poke holes. I'm open to challenges. You know, this is totally open book and transparent, and it's a good opportunity really for people to ask questions, but also, you know, to pose scenarios or discuss their particulars around their arrangements that they've got. So what I thought I might do, Anthony, if it's okay, is just jump straight onto the presentation and kind of start from there. And
yeah,
you can,
no problem
you know, stop me at any point and ask questions or otherwise. So I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, can everyone see that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. Okay, so yeah, as Anthony said, we're TCD Energy, and we're a relatively new company, but we're not new to energy, we're not new to property. So I'll tell you a little bit about our company. So as I said, TCD Energy is a new company. We were actually only formed in August, but my two business partners, Stephen, who's with me, and Aaron, who's actually on holiday at the moment. So Stephen's got 17 plus years direct experience, you know, within the trenches of the energy consultancy arena, and he's headed up, you know, large companies himself. So he's been doing this a long time, which is why I've got a kind of phone a friend next to me. And so there's not much about energy that Stephen doesn't know. And Aaron, who sends his apologies, he's worked with Scottish Power previously for the past 15 years, essentially managing the main grid for regions. And so with Stephen and Aaron, we bring a lot of industry specific knowledge. And what I bring to the company is the knowledge around the property. I'm an investor myself. I've also got a lettings and management company. And so I know exactly what customers need because I've been there and done it. I want to make a distinction first of all, and one of the common things as I've got deeper and deeper into this industry that I've begun to pick up on is that there's not a great rep really for energy brokers or energy consultants, and it's a little bit of a misnomer. And so I think TCD Energy's primary focus is to lift the lid on that and to help customers understand what the companies do and how they operate and how it is that we're able to seemingly pull efficiencies, optimizations, savings out of thin air. So we can lift the veil on that and how that works behind the scenes, and I'm happy to field any questions around that. But most importantly, I think for me, the common distinction is that a brokerage, to all intents and purposes, will find some pricing for you. So you can approach them or they'll approach you. They'll take some information from you and they will come back to you with some prices from, more often than not, a handful of suppliers that they've got preferential arrangements with or that they're used to working with. So the first thing there is that it's one element of the whole process. So you need more than just prices, okay? And then the second element is that once they've arranged your energy supply in terms of agreed the contract, more often than not, that's where their support ends. And where TCD Energy is different is that we're very much focused on providing, you know, unrivaled customer experience. We're all about the customer experience and we're all about adding value wherever we can. And so we're not here to make a quick buck. We're here to build up long-term relationships with our clients. And we're here to provide support throughout the duration of any contract that you may sign up to with our support, if that's what you decide to do. So that means that we are your one-stop shop for anything to do with your energy supply. If you're sick of waiting on the phone to British Gas or E.ON or any of the other suppliers, and I know many of us have had to do that, then we can help you with that. You won't need to contact your energy supplier again. In fact, all you'll need to do is drop us an email or give us a quick call and you won't be in a queue. And we'll pick that up and handle that on your behalf. Not only that, but I'll go into further along in the presentation some of the other add value elements that we can offer to property investors, to people involved within this industry, to people that are managing multiple properties, to make life easier and to streamline everything that you're doing. So we're all about saving money, of course, but we're about saving time and effort and headaches. So we're here to take a problem away from our clients. So that's a bit about us, and I won't bore you with any more details. If you've got any more questions, feel free to stop me at any point. So what do we do? In the simplest of terms, yes, we are experts at securing the best possible tariffs for your business energy supply, and that includes gas, electricity, and water. Don't forget, water's often overlooked, but there are efficiencies that can be found with water. And at the end of the day, if we can find efficiencies for our clients, we implement them because they all add up. We can support with energy contract reviews, and I will talk more about that in greater detail in a moment and what that means. We can support with metering and connection. So one of the common things that is overlooked, if, for instance, you deal with an energy broker, or perhaps you want to go to a comparison website, which has their place in this industry, and they're good and meet the requirements of some clients. But there's a whole process and potential problems and snags that you can hit when you're either trying to change the tenancy on your energy contract, or you've acquired a new property and you're trying to set up an energy supply. There are numerous issues that can impact that transfer. And predominantly speaking, it is you, the property owner, the business owner, that is going to need to be caught in the middle, trying to manage and resolve those issues, providing information. And again, that hoovers up your time, and it means that you're not focusing on the important things about your business. And I'll talk a little bit about why I launched the company in the first place, because I've had exactly these experiences. I talked about the consultancy element, and we're not a brokerage. So there's a whole package of services that we're able to offer. But in, at a high level, that includes ensuring that your billing is accurate. Okay, so we get a lot of clients that have lost the will to live because they can't seem to get their energy supplier to provide accurate bills. It's either estimated or they can't get the readings that they need. A whole host of issues which mean that you're working on estimated bills, and therefore it's likely over what you should be paying. And we can also do account management. So if you work with TCD Energy, you will get an account manager, and that account manager will be dedicated to looking after your account. So if you work with us, you'll know that you'll get Aaron, Stephen, myself, or one of our team that will literally be your one-stop shop for anything that you've got to do with energy. Look, John, I've had a bill. It says that I'm in arrears. What do I do? Look, John, I've had a bill. It says my contract's due for renewal. What should we do? I want a smart meter, John. What can I do? I want to get a new gas meter in. I need a new water meter in. All of those things that will probably hoover up a good couple of hours of your time. You can drop us a note or spend 20 seconds on the phone, and you can put it to one side because you know that we will follow it up and we will navigate the complex and arduous framework that is an energy supplier, because we do that on a daily basis and we know how to circumnavigate those hurdles, those barriers. And of course, the suppliers are used to dealing with us, and they know that we're like a dog with a bone and they can't fob us off, and we're very persistent. And therefore, what you've got then is a single point of contact for all things energy, and that should help release some of the pressure and demands so that you can focus more on what's important to your business. And obviously, managing overheads and reducing overheads is important to your business, but you can't be spending days and days and hours trying to reduce something that's not a good return on your time investment. So I'm all about ensuring that our clients get a good return on their time investment. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. And I can go into a little bit more detail about that. And if I waffle, please do stop me. I've got a little bit of a reputation for waffling, so I'm trying to behave. So that's all well and good. Okay, John, I can go to USwitch. I can find a whole host of online energy brokers that can give me, a real-time assessment of potentially any energy tariffs that I can get available to me. So why are we different? Well, the reason that LNPG is the first and only entity of its type that we've approached is because I joined up with LNPG 2 months ago now, and I joined LNPG because I'm in the property industry. I'm currently doing two refurbs at the moment, and I heard about LNPG and I looked at the website and I thought, gosh, this seems a little bit too good to be true, but I've heard some good things about it, so I'm going to give it a chance. And I paid my registration fee, and I can honestly say that by the time I'd ordered a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, and I can honestly say this, I saved nearly £3,000, and so that was a return on investment of 10x for me within a week. And so I thought, this is just amazing. I can't believe it's too good to be true. And so I began to watch LNPG and see the kinds of comments and queries that came up from the members. And I thought, you know what, there's lots of synergies here between what LNPG are doing and how we're trying to operate. And I saw similarities in the ethics of the companies and just trying to add value and just be transparent. And so I reached out to Anthony, and Anthony was kind enough to give me some time. Well, we understand property intimately because as an investor myself, I know that the strains and the struggles and the demands on time, specifically, whether it be managing your tenants, managing your properties, dealing with maintenance, the list goes on, and there aren't enough hours in the day. And because we work predominantly in the property sector, we speak the same language. So, I understand the models that are being operated, whether it be serviced accommodation, whether it be HMOs, whether it be student accommodation. And because I've got a management and lettings agency, obviously I deal and manage a significant number of properties within that company as well. So, and that was really how TCD Energy was spawned, because we were dealing with one of our bigger clients, 6 million plus portfolio. He had over 10 HMOs in there, blocks of apartments, you name it. He had a really mixed bag in terms of his portfolio, really diverse portfolio. And in managing him and his portfolio as one of my clients, what became an issue was being able to give him insights into the effectiveness around his KPIs for his business, particularly in terms of overheads and energy. And the first thing that I encountered as we took over his portfolio about a year ago was that it was just an absolute mess. We had some properties that with British Gas, some with E.ON, some were online, some got paper bills. Bills for one property were being delivered to another address. And it was just an absolute spider's web of confusion. And in looking at how to solve that problem, I started working with Stephen, my business partner, and we did a wholesale review of that entire portfolio. And in doing so, we were able to streamline lots of elements of that management, to make my life easier to manage the portfolio. And, generally speaking, management agencies don't really get involved with that. But, my background in the NHS and program management meant that I'm a bit of a data geek. And so I developed dashboards for my clients so that they can see how their businesses are operating, what the revenue is, what the void periods are, what their overheads are, what they're spending on gas, what they're spending on electricity. And when I got to the gas and electricity KPIs, I realized that the quality of the data was really poor. And so we worked across all of our clients' properties to look at streamlining the account management process so that it was all online. B, ensure that we had the data quality correct and each account was set up to the correct property with the correct dates. And most importantly, to see where we could find efficiencies and reduction in costs for his overheads on energy. And one of the first things that we identified, and bearing in mind, this is a very astute guy. He is a very organized guy. He's got a team of people at his disposal. He's a doctor, he's an entrepreneur. And so this isn't the type of person that you would expect to be caught out, but a number of his contracts were non-existent. They were out of contract. So he was on default tariffs, which meant that he was paying 30 to 40% above and beyond what we should have been. So that was the first thing that we identified. So straight away, we were able to put that right and identify significant savings. For those that weren't on a default tariff, we were able to look at if we could do better. And I'm confident in saying that there wasn't a single property that we looked at that we weren't able to make him savings in terms of his kilowatt per hour, whether that be on gas and electricity. Now, anyone who's got HMOs, particularly if they're large HMOs, 10 plus bedrooms, that these properties burn a lot of energy, and those overheads associated with energy are not small overheads, and they make up a bigger and bigger part of the business viability of HMO portfolio, especially now as the energy tariffs are starting to rise. So we went through that wholesale review of his portfolio, and in addition to that, he also happens to have 10 GP practices. As I said, he was a doctor, and we did the same across those GP practices, and we were able to save him an extortionate sum of money over the next 3 years, and we were able to lock him in. And this was actually just before the energy prices started to soar. So it was a kind of double bonus. We saved him overheads in terms of what he was currently paying, but also the future cost implications of him not taking that action were avoided, right? We mitigated that risk. We mitigated that issue before it hit him. And so, obviously he's very pleased, and he's happy to endorse the service that we provide him. And so that's an example of how we can work with clients that have got multiple properties, and we look at things on a bespoke basis. So there is an incredibly large amount of variables, right, that can inform what an energy supplier can offer you. There are things like the quality of your credit rating. It depends on your postcode. It depends on the size of your business. It depends on the estimated consumption of gas, electricity, and water. So there are all of these variables that make up the criteria that help an energy supplier decide what tariffs they're going to offer you and what contracts they're going to offer you. And therefore, you can go on to a comparison portal, but that comparison portal just simply does not have the capability or the human element in order to take a client by the hand and walk them through all of their options based on real-time information from pricing tools and matrices that we have access to as a premier consultancy with the suppliers. So that's what sets us apart.
John, can I interrupt a second there?
Please do stop me.
You mentioned that one of the red flags for your case study was that you described it as a spider's web. They were with different suppliers for each.
Yeah.
Now, with all of the criteria that goes into the tariff, is that not in most cases a good thing because you can get the cheapest tariff per property? Or are you suggesting it's better to go with a wholesale portfolio?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question.
And the other question I was going to ask Paul, Paul Hilliard, is Paul, you've got HMOs, nod your head so you listen. Paul, do you just, whatever tariff you're on, or do you look around to British Gas, E.ON and them OIGs and just pick a tariff that you would do for your own home? I hear what you're saying, John, about all this. Yeah, you can do this, we can do this, we can do that. But my head is gone, how do you save money on that? I'm with British Gas, so I'm on a standard tariff because that's what I've been told to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm paying a standard tariff. So like Paul on an HMO, he would probably ring 3 or 4 companies and go on a standard tariff. Am I correct? Or do what you do, Paul?
You can also go on a commercial basis, Nick, and put the portfolio on a commercial contract with one supplier for all 10 HMOs or whatever.
And will you get a better rate?
And that works at a much better rate. Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Stephen, John's co-director. Anthony, what you said then about on yourself, Paul, about HMOs, and just to clear it up as well, Nick, with the example John gave about the client we've got with the HMOs. So yeah, he was with about 4 or 5 different suppliers, all out of contract, most of them anyway. Tariffs were all over the place. So the solution for that was we put all of his gas meters with one supplier on a blanket contract, all of his electric with one supplier on a blanket contract, all fixed at the same price for 3 years. One login for each supplier so they can view the bills. Really just streamline the whole lot. Because I went through the portfolio and it was somewhere on direct debit, somewhere on cash check, out of contract, wrong addresses, no meter readings given, some had meter readings given. So now what we did, we put them all on blanket contrast gas and electricity. Those buildings that didn't have smart meters, which was probably about 80% of them, which probably cost them a lot of money because all the readings were estimated, and now all on smart meters as well, all free of charge from the supplier. So that portfolio is the ease of that for the accountants, for the clients in the accounts department is fantastic now. They're not getting 40 different bills every month from different suppliers. They're getting one bill with the meter breakdown for each property that they've got.
Oh, so they still get the individual breakdown. That's good.
Yeah, the individual. Yeah, that was one was with a company called Avanti Gas. So with Avanti Gas, for example, you get a login if you set up any contract with them. For example, this HMO, I think there's about 18 meters with that. So they log in. They've got one generic account number which covers all their sites, and there's a drop down little tab on the site that then lists all the account numbers, and you can just click on one, click on view bill, look at what your bill is, or you can look at it as a report off their website as well. It'll just put them all onto one. So these are benefits where, like John was saying about time and stuff like that, what was normally a job, I can't imagine how long it would take the accounts department to work out what bill was for which building, when they should pay it, all different contract end dates.
I'll ask a question, because maybe people are thinking this, but smart meters.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go around people's homes, and my partner, she's got one, it's sitting on the side. Can somebody explain to me, like a 5-year-old, what does it do for you? Because it goes up and it goes down. When she turns the kettle up or the oven, it goes up.
Yeah.
And I think, well, how does that save you money? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, please.
So what it basically does, it's just taking away the elements of anyone who uses energy in business or residential to have to give meter readings in every month. If you don't get a meter reading in, an energy company gives you an estimated bill. You may get a bill in May for electricity. If you've not given meter reading in, it'll then be based on the last meter reading, which could have been December when it was winter, when you're using the most, when you've been using the most energy. They'll estimate it on that. So until you give a meter reading in, they won't adjust your bill. They'll keep billing you, or direct debit payment will come out based on the historic usage. So what a smart meter does, it gives a daily reading transmitted to the supplier straight away. So you've got a SIM card inside the smart meter which transmits the reading every day, so your bills are spot on every time. So
that's what a smart meter does.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is it then that they're so controversial? We've got a couple of comments.
They had a lot of teething problems when they first come out. I'm going back about 5 or 6 years ago, because I was a consultant to British Gas for 9 years. And the stage 1 meters were really complex. It was a new thing in the industry. There's always teething problems. Unfortunately, the teething problems cause headaches for customers. But now I think they're on phase 5. They're called the latest smart meters. So they really are 10 times better than they were years ago. So it was a bit controversial, and you know, it is better than it was, definitely. I see the meter readings getting given to all these HMOs, and the bills, what they were. Like for one of the buildings, the electricity was averaging, this is a 6-bedroom luxury apartment block. The bill on estimated with Eon was around £950 a month. With the new contract in place reduction and with the smart meter, it's about £650, £670 average in a month now. That individual building's come down £300 a month. That client we've saved, not including the doctor's surgeries, it was roughly about 12 to 13k a year on gas and electricity.
Because you put him on a new contract, that saved him money. That smart meter didn't save him any money, did it?
No,
bills.
The smart meter has also helped it, because there was no meter readings being given in. It was all estimated bills for as long as 18 months at least on this one particular one, I remember.
I think with smart meters, what that means is it removes the need to manually submit readings. And we all know that life gets in the way, and you intend to get meter readings in, and often that you don't. If you can, I'm just sharing on the screen here another tool that we can offer, you know, those clients that have got, so Paul, you know, something like this may be suitable for someone like yourself. It's essentially an app that we can link to your energy billing, and that can help you to run reports and actually analyze your energy consumption. So if Paul, for instance, has got a handful of HMOs, what we're actually able to do through this capability is for Paul not only to look at what each of his HMOs are using, but he can compare the HMOs, and he can say, hang on, I've got these both 6-bed HMOs, but for some reason, this HMO is burning a lot more on the electricity, and that can raise a flag to investigate further why that is, and perhaps that's a problem that can be solved, or it can be a case of managing the tenants better. Have they got the windows open and the heating on full blast? I've seen that. And so it gives you that kind of granular understanding of your energy consumption. So that won't be useful for all clients, but those that have got multiple properties, or they might have someone, you know, that's responsible, their accountant or the bookkeeper, for example, and they need information, you know, those tools are available to them. Likewise, we can manage those tools on the client's behalf and come to an arrangement where they can get a report, or they can call us and ask us, you know, why is this bill so high? And we can run some reports and actually look at that.
But does this give you reports then on what they're doing, like a 12-hour period?
So you can break this report down. If you've got smart meters in, we can break this report down to 30-minute increments.
Got to help Paul's tenants, because he'll turn the gas off at 5 o'clock home.
It might, you know, it might even be little things, Paul, like reviewing what type of light bulbs you've got in the building. Little things make a big difference like that. You know, the simplest part.
But it helps us to crunch that data and surface insights that are actually useful, you know, to operating an efficient business model. So I'll just come back to my next slide, which is the process. So you know, I've talked about saving clients time. Well, what does that look like? The short and long of it is that there's pretty much 3 steps. You can engage us via the telephone, email, or via our contact form on the website. And we'll contact you back, or we'll arrange a call simply to discuss your requirements. We'll ask about how you're operating. We'll ask you about the business, the properties, and the details around that. And that will give us a good understanding of how we can or can't help. And the important thing to say is that we're not saying that we can help every single client. It could well be that we will take a look at your energy arrangements and say, do you know what, actually, we wouldn't recommend that you move or do anything at this point in time. You're actually in a good place. And in us undertaking that free, no obligation appraisal for you, you can stop wondering about it. You know, you can make an informed decision to say, right, okay, well, I'll review this in 6 months, or we'll give you a window. We'll set something in our calendar, in our CRM management system, to say, we'll contact you 6 months before that contract's due to expire. And we'll relook at it and see if it's still a good idea to renew with them, or we can do something better. So one is enabling our clients to make an informed decision, because we will look at the specific circumstances surrounding your properties and how you're operating, because every business, to all intents and purposes, is different, and there's unique criteria which will inform whether you've got an optimal solution in place. And so once we've got your requirements and we understand what it is that you're doing, we will then go and do a wholesale market appraisal. So that doesn't mean that we go to a handful of preferred suppliers, or those that we like working with, or those that give you know, the best incentives or whatever. We look at all of the suppliers, and we've got live tools that give us real-time prices from each of these suppliers based on criteria that we plug into the system. And that we obviously discussed that prior as part of the consultation call, shall we call it. So once we've had that consultation call with you, all we need is a copy of your bill, if you've got one, and you to sign a letter of authority, which gives us authority in the eyes of your incumbent supplier and new potential suppliers that you've given us delegated authority to engage them on your behalf and discuss energy arrangements for you as our client. Once we've done that, we essentially collate a report which gives you your options. So that's a bespoke report dependent on your circumstances, and then we'll arrange another call, or we can email it and discuss it at your convenience to say, right, okay, so we've understood all of your information, all of your requirements, we've gone to the market, and this is what we've come back with. And that's when we start to look at, based on how many properties you've got, the different options available to you. So we've talked about blanket contracts or basket contracts, where we can streamline and standardize, you know, your energy across your portfolio. And that would be suitable for some clients and not suitable for others. So it really depends on your circumstances. And what we look to do is to use our industry expert knowledge, to use our relationships with the suppliers to get preferential tariffs, and to get the best possible arrangement depending on your requirements that we can. And I'll just reiterate, it's no obligation. There's no sales tactics or pressuring on those calls. You can look at that report and say, do you know what, TCD Energy, thanks very much, but actually I'm okay. I just wanted the information so that I know what I didn't before. And that's absolutely fine. If you want to use TCD Energy for a no obligation assessment of how you've got things set up and you think you're set up really well, that's great. We're more than happy to do that. And if we think we've seen some areas where you can optimize it, then we'll flag those and discuss those with you. So in the most basic terms, that's how we start the process. Okay. That's not the end of the process, because don't forget, we're holding your hand throughout the duration of your contract. So we're still your single point of call for all things energy, and you'll get a dedicated account manager in order to look after your needs.
John, how long does this section of the process take then? This is really the diagnosis of what can change. So
this process, as long as there aren't any bottlenecks on the client side of things, we can do this in the day. We can do this on the same day.
Wow.
We can access those live prices on the call to you there and then, but we like to collate it into a report that's easy to digest and understand. Mm-hmm. But we can do that in real time with the tools that we've got at our disposal, and that puts us in a great position. And we get notifications from all of the suppliers as well in real time about tariff changes, any implications, if they're going to pull their prices, which has been happening recently because they're in a bit of flux and they don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. And so we've got our finger right on the pulse. And, I know for a fact that the lion's share of brokers that would offer a similar service don't have at their disposal those tools, because, we've worked hard to get them and invested heavily in those tools. And because we see the value add that it brings to our clients to have the finger on the pulse. So we can do that in a single day. The actual contract arrangement process can take a bit longer. And as I said, there's lots that goes on behind the scenes that you don't need to worry about, because you know that you're in a safe pair of hands. But if you were using a comparison site or a run-of-the-mill broker, you're soon going to find out about those problems, because you're going to be fielding emails and requests from the new energy supplier or the old energy supplier. So one of the classic things is that the old energy supplier will challenge the contract transfer, because obviously they don't like to lose clients. So some energy suppliers will use every trick in the book in order to prevent that switch happening. And that happens more than you would expect. And so it could be things like, oh, you know what, an email address doesn't match, or there's a change in postcode, or any anomaly that an incumbent supplier can find to derail the transfer. They often will use it. And so we're very au fait with how to deal with those and how to negate those delays in the most efficient way possible.
Well, with that being said, John, how seriously do they take this letter of authority? Can they turn around and say, no, we've got to talk?
No, there's only one supplier that doesn't accept a letter of authority from any broker, consultancy, management company. They will only deal with the client direct, and they're called BES Energy, BES Energy. They're based in Blackpool. They're more like a self-billing company, but they will not deal with anyone at all. Every supplier has to accept a letter of authority from a broker if it's signed by the client that matches what the account says. So it's fine.
It's industry standards essentially, and it's the the rules of engagement that they need to adhere by, and the guidelines. So we do sometimes need to escalate things with suppliers through their complaints procedure if they don't provide information in a timely manner. So for instance, one of the things that we dealt with recently, and we've had some headaches with Bulb Energy, is to say, look, we've got a client, we've got a letter of authority, he's got 17 meters with you, and we want his contract's due for renewal. We want you to tell us what the renewal tariff is going to be. And they really weren't keen on surfacing that information to us. And so we have to follow the complaints procedure. And all of these are things that will hoover up your time if you're trying to do this yourself, and you don't know what you don't know. And so you're not expecting any of these challenges, and you'll soon find yourself, in a fit of anxiety because you can't move it. Because they've managed to checkmate you through some random anomaly.
Can I just close, Anthony, on the letter of authority question as well, just to put people's peace of mind, really? The letter of authority that we have, which John explained what it does and what it's for, every supplier that we're registered with, which is 17, including the top 6, all the usual suspects, they have to have our letter of authority before we register with them. They have to sign it off from the broker consultancy teams who handle that side of the business. So our letter of authority has been authorised by them anyway. They'll accept it. It's just a pre-check what they all do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no nasty surprises there as far as that goes. So let's talk about some of the other areas where we can add value. And so I was thinking about, okay, well, you've engaged LNPG. Well, what are you going to offer the LNPG members, right? That's special that I can't get as a random stranger engaging your company. So I had a good hard think about that. And these were the things that I'm going to start with. And I'd just like to say that I think I've got many more ideas, some quite exciting ideas about economies of scale, right, that we could deal with. And we've already been speaking with our suppliers about how this might work, but I think more to come in the future on that if there's some legs in this support that we're offering for the LNPG members. So the first thing is VAT. Okay. A lot of you will already know that there's different VAT rates depending on, how your property is designated, is denoted, is recorded when you've set up your original contract. And you will know that generally speaking, you can either get charged 20% VAT or you can get charged 5% VAT. So you would generally get charged 20% VAT if you've got a commercial business energy arrangement. You don't have any residential element, okay, to your business function, okay. But also I mentioned GP practices earlier and charities. There are other examples of company vehicles that also are suitable to receive the reduction in VAT. And what we found, particularly with some of the larger wholesale reviews that we've done and clients very recently as well, is that you don't know what you don't know. And if we identify an inaccuracy or an issue with the VAT that's been allocated to your energy billing, we've got the capability to engage the supplier and go through a process to start to reclaim overpaid VAT. And obviously we know what the criteria is. So for instance, if you've got a HMO, Paul, I'm assuming you're on 5% VAT on your energy bills, is that correct? Well, we identify a lot of clients that actually aren't. And that is a really simple check that anyone at home can do by looking at their bills. And if you find that, yeah, I'm running a HMO, I'm running student accommodation, I'm running serviced accommodation, and I'm getting charged 20% VAT, or I've got my business is registered as a charity and I'm getting charged 20% VAT, we can engage the supplier and submit all the forms to recover VAT overpayments. Now, depending on the supplier, that can range from recovering VAT overpayments from up to 4 years ago to up to a year ago. And so, I was explaining to Anthony that we went through this process for one of our clients. And what happened was we submitted the forms and the supplier accepted them, and they credited his account with his VAT overpayments. And those VAT overpayments essentially equated to 2 months worth of energy. And so he got a credit on his account, and that meant that he didn't need to pay his energy bills for his HMO for 2 months. And, that is a simple exercise that we can undertake for free. Not a problem. If you think your VAT's incorrect, let us know. We'll do all of that for you. We'll happily recoup the money from sometimes unscrupulous suppliers that are overcharging our clients. So we enjoy doing that. I'm not going to lie. We enjoy reclaiming VAT overpayments for our clients.
It's amazing how many people are paying.
And they enjoy it too, because it means that it just takes the pressure off. Every little bit helps. And so we think that's good.
You mentioned there, it's probably a very stupid question. But you said you're eligible for the 5% VAT if your properties do not have a residential function.
They do have a residential element. That's the most common criteria. And when I say a residential element, that could mean that, for instance, you've got a commercial premises that's got an apartment upstairs that's used for SA. You've got a HMO that obviously has a residential element. You're running serviced accommodation that's a business, but it's got a residential element. And so all of those business models meet the criteria. And there are idiosyncrasies between different suppliers and how we circumnavigate that process. But they are some basic criteria that help us to understand whether or not we should go down that road of investigating that further and submitting the relevant forms on your behalf.
What you probably find, I mean, just in general, even if you went to your local pub, you'd probably find a landlord's paying 20% VAT when it should be split for his living quarters upstairs. It was a massive thing years ago when Vince, I think it was Vince Cable at the time, put these measures in place. So even if you're a pub, landlord, care home, GP, residential, but commercial, but with residential elements, it all qualifies for it. When I was ops manager for a British gas consultancy, part of it was a big element, 2011, 2012, was these VAT reclaims. The biggest one I seen was for a care group in Scotland. It was a £134,000 rebate from Npower. 156 care homes being paying the wrong VAT for 3 years, and they were a charity, so it was a nice project to be involved with, because you're giving something back to people, aren't you? But
and one of the things, I don't know. You never know. You know, my background's in the NHS, and we're specialising with GP practices as well. And obviously, when energy suppliers are charging a GP practice 20% VAT, you know, that's taxpayers' money. Okay, because that's subsidised, right, by the government, because essentially that GP practice will reclaim their expenses in terms of energy. And what we found was, of the 10 GP practices that we looked at, 40% of them, 4 of them were on the wrong VAT tariff. And so that was really enjoyable to get that VAT reclaim, to make those businesses more sustainable in these unprecedented demanding times. The last thing that they need is to be worrying about, you know, keeping the lights on. And so just to draw the line under that, you know, that's open to all LNPG members. You don't need to sign up with an energy deal for us. You don't even need to ask us to do a whole review of your energy arrangements. We can just look at a bill, and if we think that you've overpaid on VAT, we will, with glee, follow that process through for you.
As well.
And you know, in addition to that, there are some other slightly lesser, smaller nominal charges, transport charges for the energy, etc. Standing charges as well that are potentially eligible for rebates, and they add up. The other thing that we want to offer LNPG members is a dedicated support line. So if you've got a query about energy, it doesn't matter what it is. If you think it's stupid or it's a big problem, you're pulling your hair out, give us a call and ask us. If you need to speak to someone in the know, then where you come to, guys, give us a call. We're here to help. And, you know, we've got that line available to LNPG members from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week. So any issue or query whatsoever, that's what that number's for. Or equally, drop us an email. And then the other thing, which I've already touched on, is, you know, an appraisal of your portfolio. If you've got multiple properties and it's becoming a bit of a headache, or actually you think you're really organised and you'd like to see how well organised your energy supplies are, will come to us and we will do a wholesale review of your arrangements. Again, just so that you know that you're doing well. And if there's areas where we can improve, well, why wouldn't you want to know that? And if we can't improve on any of the areas, well, that's great. You know, well done to you. And at least now you know, and now you can stop thinking about it and you can focus on other things. So often it's about just making sure that we've got things dialed in, right, as efficiently and as optimally as we can. And if you want to know whether you've got things dialed in as efficiently as possible, well, give us a shout and we'll look at it for you. Again, we're not doing it because we've got some ulterior motive to sign you up for business or to sign you up to a contract. And genuinely, we're just looking to add value, because we know that adding value will come back to our business in the long term, because you'll come back to us in the future, or you'll want to work with us in the future. And so we're more than happy to do that. So that's just the kind of 3 key pillars where we think we can add value. I talked earlier about some other exciting opportunities about economies of scale, and we've been talking with a few suppliers today, and we could, in theory, form a mini energy group. And therefore, what we could potentially do is we could garner economies of scale by forming a conglomerate, which is attributed to LNPG, which means that if LNPG members join that conglomerate with LNPG Energy, let's say we called it that, that means that they could get preferential tariffs because we're purchasing as a group. Now, I'm just alluding to that at a really high level currently, but they were some of the things that we were talking about today that really got me excited, that I'd not even began to really think about in detail. And that's going to take a couple of months to plan, but that's certainly feasible and viable. And the energy suppliers that we've spoken about are quite keen as well to get involved in that. So that's just one for the pipeline, where LNPG members could benefit even further to preferential tariffs that are only available because of the buying power that LNPG brings.
I like the idea that a tariff called LNPG.
I was hoping you were listening to that one, Nick. It's
You can just imagine that.
It's one of the
Oh,
good
it made me laugh, that did. When I set up LNPG, I didn't ever think I would hear anybody say that to me.
Well,
sorry, John. I just find that really funny. Sorry.
Right. Well, hopefully, as well as funny, it might just sow a seed, and you know, it might be something worth discussing in the future. So, well, let's discuss the elephant in the room then. Right? How the hell are you going to come on here, John, and tell people that now's the time to look at their energy? Which is, you know, a really good challenge. And my simple answer to that is a lot of LNPG members will likely be down under domestic tariffs when they could theoretically have a business energy arrangement. Okay, so A, they're missing out there because predominantly speaking, and we're always transparent, again, we don't advise people to switch if it's not an improvement. So technically speaking, there are a lot of LNPG members that could change the tenancy, right, on their energy supply for their property to change it from a domestic, which is in their name, and change that tenancy across to their limited company or to them as a sole trader, and therefore leverage the benefits that are available to business customers. Likewise,
is business tariff then lower than residential?
So generally speaking, yes, but it depends on some specific, you know, variables. And so we don't know until we take the information and then we plug that into our systems to see what the energy suppliers are coming back to us with. And that's why I say it's like we can't give a blanket kind of rule of thumb to say, you know, always. Unfortunately, it is very much dependent on those variables in terms of what comes back. And if what comes back is not cheaper and doesn't provide benefits, then we would never dream of recommending that they switch. And then that person knows, actually, do you know what, I'll stick with domestic. And TCD Energy have got something in the calendar to give me a shout back in 6 months, and they're going to relook at it and see if it's still the same. And so that's one thing, which is you can just know whether or not you've got a good setup or not, or you could be finding improvements.
Also, to be honest, you are exposed to, with being on domestic, these big increases straight away.
Yeah,
because a lot of the time there's clauses in contracts. A lot of these small companies been going bust last few weeks. I feel sorry for the customers, because yet they are houses and residential customers. It gets transferred and Ofgem take over it.
Yeah.
And then they're open to a pack of wolves of what supplier they're with, what tariff they're on. They might have been on a nice cheap electricity rate of 14 pence an hour last week. All of a sudden now they're on 28 pence. And there's nothing.
But I thought the government have come in on that they can't change the tariffs.
What I mean is, if not yet, sorry, not if they change the tariff, or if they want to then look at a different supplier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they might move to somebody else, but then that company might go bust if it's a little one again. So yeah, if they look at getting a quote now, it could be double what they're paying.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a hard area, especially
if you're on a fixed tariff and the company that takes you over, they have to honor that.
It's a bit of a nightmare at the minute. So with like commercial energy, especially with like the big six, British Gas, Eon, SSE, Scottish Power, you're not running that risk. There's quite a few clients I've seen lately who've been with smaller companies, and they've exercised a clause which they have not heard from customers, but it's in the contract. If the scenario what's happened lately has happened, we will put you on this rate. There was a guy contacted me today who's with a company called TCD Energy. The supply started only a week ago. He was on a unit tariff, it was like 3.5 pence for his gas. From the 1st of December, it's going up to 16 pence. So it's times it by over 400%. He can move supplier if he wants, but the fact is it's out there and it's happening.
And
so with the bigger companies, they've hedged this money. They can honour the contracts. They can keep the prices reasonable compared to others.
Yeah.
I think the thing is as well is, you know, we're familiar with the specifics of the contracts of the different suppliers. So, you know, we know in terms of that appraisal, you know, that's an element of what would inform our recommendations to the client, because obviously, you know, we're looking to understand the most risk averse, safe, stable arrangements as well as the cheapest. So yeah, well, that one's 2 pence a kilowatt per hour cheaper. Well, yeah, well, that's with the supplier that's got a clause in their contract that if they go bang, we can't guarantee that they're going to honour the tariff that you're currently on, for example. So that's the first thing. So there are benefits to moving to a business arrangement, and don't assume that, you know, you're not protected in some ways by moving to a business tariff. In other words, you know, what's the equivalent to the price cap for business customers? There isn't one. Well, the price cap is a robust contract with a secure and stable supplier, which means that you can lock into a tariff for up to 5 years if you so wish. And that's part of the conversation that we have when we walk the customer through their report. And again, shouldn't we wait to see what happens? Well, if you're uncertain about your energy arrangements, why not find out for certain where you stand? There's no harm to come from that. We're here offering the service. We'll look at everything for you. It'll take you, you know, 10, 20 minutes of your time to give us the information that we need maximum. And we can come back to you and let you know for a fact whether or not you're in a good place. So I think those that are risk averse, those that are organized, those that are looking to ensure that they're mitigating, you know, risks to their business, I would recommend they speak with us, because it's better to know than to not know. And just to reiterate again, we're not just about prices. You've got to factor in the service that we add value to, and saving time, effort, energy, and stress. And, you know, it's about the return of investment on time. So if you're managing all of your own energy arrangements, you may spend 10 hours a year, 20 hours a year, hopefully not more, 30 hours a year dealing with that. Well, what could you do with that 30 hours a year, that full working week instead, if you gave that to us to look after? You know, you could be really dealing with the things that make the biggest impact to your business and using your time effectively. And that actually is, you know, the biggest keynote we get in terms of feedback from our clients. It's great you save me money, but actually I don't have the stress and the hassle anymore, and I can just leave it to you. And that is some of the key feedback that we're getting from our clients, which is where they see the benefits in our service. And then, you know, just finally, you know, again, we've come here to be pressure tested, and there's nothing that we've said today that I couldn't get an extremely credible person to stand up and say that everything he said is absolutely correct. So, you know, I've spoken with these gentlemen, and they were happy for me to share their, you know, their details, their names, because these are some of my bigger clients. So we've got Dr. Maserani. He's the doctor / entrepreneur. He's got GP practices. He's got a big portfolio. I manage all of his portfolio, and he was solving his problems is what formed TCD Energy, right? That's where TCD Energy was born. Out of an opportunity, out of a problem comes an opportunity, and that is just so true in this case. We found the problem, we found the solution to it, and I discovered a massive opportunity and a massive need and a massive gap that we can really add value with. So we've got Dr. Maserani, we've got Michael Murphy, who's a senior partner in an international law firm. We've taken him through this process with a number of his really prestige properties in Liverpool city centre, and we were able to save him a packet and also protect him from the future increases. Don't forget, because let's be honest, prices may come down, but, you know, when we look at things like property values, right, they will dip, we get peaks and troughs, but generally we know where that trend is going. And the same is the case for energy. There may be peaks and troughs, but the general trend of that trajectory is that energy prices are only going to go up, right, in the long term. And so there are benefits to locking into a standard tariff, and you know what you're paying, right? You can plan ahead, and that's always beneficial. And then outside of individuals, we also do a lot of business to business. So we work with I've talked about GP practices, but we work with SA management companies. So So Simple, and they're one of the premier serviced accommodation management agencies in the city, and we work closely with them whenever they bring on any new clients. Part of their onboarding process is they get them to speak with us, and we look at the new property that they may have acquired or the property that they've already got that they're repurposing to SA, and we make sure that they've got their energy arrangements dialed in, set up, ready to go, but also optimal and hassle-free.
Okay.
And so I think we've talked about some of the energy analytics, but hopefully that's covered off, some of the key points in my presentation, and we can maybe move to questions.
We'll ask Paul to get in touch with you, and you can do a test stress on him.
That'd be brilliant. I'd love to have a look at your portfolio for you, Paul, if it'd be of interest.
I've got some queries that I'd love to bounce off you, because I moved last June, and I moved into what were allocated as classified as business premises. So I was with Drax Power, and they've now become, is it Haven Power?
Mm-hmm.
And what I've done is I went to them and said, come on, why haven't you sorted me out? And cut a very long story short, they've turned around and offered me a new contract at 26.33p, and I've told them thanks but no thanks.
How much was it, Paul? Sorry, I didn't hear that. 26
pence per kilowatt. This is electric. I'm only on electric. I've got no gas. And so I said thanks but no thanks. I'm transferring one of my supplies from another property into here instead, using Octopus.
Yeah.
And the reason for doing that, and the other thing that they did was they turned around and said, oh, you're not achieving our minimum requirements for a business at 10,000 kilowatt. And I said, well, I think you'll find I probably am. But, but because they've turned around and said 26, I'm thinking, my gut feel is, perhaps you'll correct me if I'm wrong, my gut feel is, despite what you've just said, as you say, my gut feel is that the prices are going to come down in the spring.
Yeah.
Because gas demand always drops off.
Yeah, it probably will. Paul. It's not going to be on a big scale compared to what they've gone up. They'll be reduced down possibly.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't give a figure on it because we don't know. I don't think anyone knows, to be honest. But
I don't think anyone knows. But I mean, I've been offered 3-year contracts at 26p on residential. And I've gone, really? And that's going to save me money? And they go, oh, yeah. I said, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't say hand on heart that your prices are going to be higher than this over the next 3 years. And then, because all their telephone calls, this wasn't Octopus or Drax, by the way, this was somebody else. It was a cold call saying, oh, I can reduce your premise. They're already supplied to me. And I went, you can't guarantee that. So don't call me up, wasting my time.
What you've got with a lot of these small suppliers, Paul, is they'll basically buy their energy off another supplier.
I totally understand.
So you've got one company called CNG. They provide gas to Dice Energy, National Gas, possibly even Haven. Now, what CNG have done, for example, last week is they've withdrew from the business side for business gas, basically.
Yeah.
And any contracts that were being agreed through anyone they provide to, they give a cut-off date of the 31st of October. Any suppliers agreed through any channel who provides via CNG, once the 1st November hit, they wouldn't honour the contracts. And it's happened to a client I know, actually yesterday, sorry. So we tend to, I mean, the big six sort of used to get a bad rap because there'd be all these people coming out of the woodwork, even residential stuff like, look after my bills. And it's all very well with the price, but then when it goes wrong, you sort of stuff. So the big six are still, in my view, the best people to go with, because of what you're not going to have any problems with them going bust, or
they're not going to go bust, but with all due respect, they do take the mickey.
You do. You probably will pay a lot of the time a higher premium. But the good thing is, like what John said, where we've got the possibility of this bigger purchasing power going forward, it will make a difference. If we've got the 150 LMPG landlords with a mixed bag of HMOs, student accommodation, whatever it may be, and it adds up to an enormous amount of kilowatts per year, we then go as a blanket contract and say, right, this is, it's going to give us, all of us, a great advantage with beating these guys at their own game, if you get me.
I think in your case, Paul, in your case, Paul, it sounds like a classic example where we do, and I'd love to do a more detailed, review of it. I think in your case, our recommendations would probably be to agree with you and say, in these circumstances, depending on, what the duration of your contract is left, et cetera, it may well be that we advise you to stick where you are. And so all I'm saying is that our default answer is not always to switch. We do an appraisal for a reason, and that's to find the best solution for you, the client, not for us. It's for you, the client. And so we're really passionate about giving our clients the best information and advice. And often that might be to stick where you are with what you've got, and wait and see. But my point is that you shouldn't wait to see if you're in a good place or not. You should do that immediately. You should understand what scenario and predicament you are or are not in to help you make an informed decision. We're not saying you should change contracts or swap supplier immediately, but we're saying that you should have an assessment undertaken on your arrangements immediately.
Yeah, just to clarify, I did ask the question, or put it in the chat. I put, is it worth reviewing currently, because current prices seriously above the capped SVR rates and fixed rates, and therefore both fixed and commercial rates that are going to be offered at the moment are going to be higher above the cap price, surely?
So, that depends. So if you've newly acquired a property, for instance, that wouldn't necessarily apply, because, you're in a scenario where you do need to put in place arrangements in regards to your energy supply, so you don't really have a choice. And as I say, in the scenario whereby you've already got an arrangement in place and you need to know whether or not you should stick with what you've got, that depends on the circumstances. And it's one of those, I probably sound like a broken record. We can't give a blanket answer to that because it is so individual to every client. But the main underpinning factor for us is that we advise the client as to what's best for them, what's most cost efficient for them, and what's going to put them in the best position moving forwards.
God, it's 10 to 8. It's 10 to 8. Are we going to? Wow. We need to get to the questions.
I was going to say a couple more questions, Nick.
Yeah. I was just going to say, get to the freaking question.
From me now. Blimey, you throw me now. But one of the other question I was going to ask was that I'm currently being charged for a meter supply to a building I don't use, but I will in the future. So therefore, I don't want to delist it. Is there a way of reducing the challenge, or even challenge the 50 feet?
Who's the supplier, Paul?
Avon Power.
All right, okay. Are you then just getting charged a standing charge?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Is it in contract for a long period of time at the moment?
No.
Okay. There are some suppliers, I know from my background with British Gas, that offer a nil standing charge deal.
All right.
They do come up. They're not always available. It's it's periodic. It's quarterly. Sometimes they throw them on. We used to. A lot of clients I've managed in the past. I used to deal mainly with care groups and large pub groups, like a group of pubs, 10 pubs or more, and you'd have a lot of the time there'd be vacant buildings. So when I was at British Gas, was you put the contract on a nil standing charge deal. The unit price might come out 30% higher than what a standard tariff would be.
Yeah.
But if it's not being used, you're only getting billed for the standing charge. And on that basis, we'd only recommend putting that on a 12-month supply.
Yeah.
Because then when you do come to use it, it may be more beneficial to have a standing charge or not.
No.
But we can you can do a 2-price option on that. We can quote you with and without it. But it is beneficial. A lot of people do use that. A lot of businesses did use it, to be honest, when it was available all the time. Like a restaurant that might just be open 3 days a week. You have a nil standing charge deal, because then they're only getting charges not when they use the gas of an evening. Really good one.
The question that I was going to ask, which I've forgotten about, was you've almost convinced me about smart meters, but I've been a vehement anti-smart meter. So whenever I get a phone call, I go, how's it going to save me money? It isn't.
Yeah,
You've almost convinced me that it made it. You're correct. You've almost convinced me. So I may revisit that. But
a lot of suppliers, Paul, now also part of their criteria is that a smart meter is installed.
that's right. I mean, that's right. The question I asked earlier, which said, or I had to ask was, I don't want to swap. Sorry, I don't want to install smart meters. So how can I avoid that? And on the sound of it, the vast majority, it's a no, isn't it?
Well, just to give you my scenario at my house, I've not got smart meters. They're getting installed, I think the 20th of this month, and I'm actually on a good tariff of British Gas for a 3-year one that was done last year before all the increases. And their last correspondence with me was basically, if I don't get a smart meter installed, they're going to exercise a clause in the contract and take me out of it, and then I'll be on a deem rate, which would be the price is what I don't know. So I'm on 14 pence or something like that in my house on electricity at the minute, and about 2.9p gas, which was a good deal at the time. But if I don't let them put smart meters in, they're going to exercise a clause, and so it looks like they're getting a bit tough with it.
You've just got to be out every time they come, haven't you?
Yeah, just ignore them.
Thanks for that.
I've got a related question about smart meters, actually, from Buddy here that says, "Hi, John. I just wanted to say that the only time that I don't want a smart meter is for water. For electricity and gas, I would die for having a smart meter. So it'd be interesting to hear if there's a way to get a non-smart water meter, but a smart gas and electric meter."
I think
Possibly.
with the water side, that's something that I'd probably have to come back to you on and check with the providers, the 3 that we use, and just see what their setup is. Because realistically, if you've not got a smart meter for water or an upgraded meter, I've not seen a scenario where the suppliers said you must get one put in.
No, not yet.
It's sort of it's an untapped and
I'm assuming
sort
in
of
that
section.
scenario, they're going on the basis that an estimated usage will be less than what they're actually using.
You can still give meter readings in, but it's not really. It's something I can check out and come back to you guys on.
Okay. Appreciate that. So yeah, a few more questions. Can you get energy prices for a business that isn't a rental? Just standard commercial property.
Of course, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
any business. It doesn't, I said, even it doesn't, even if it's your local pub and you get on well with the landlord, mention us to him. It's if it's a business, it needs it. And there's so many. It's not. I mean, my background, I dealt with, I said, care homes and care groups and pubs and restaurants. Everyone needs it. It's just having the right tools and the right people behind you to make it cost effective for you and to make things easy for the client.
If you've got a business entity, in most scenarios, you can get a business energy supply, and it doesn't matter what type of business is. If it's a barber's, if it's a restaurant, if you've got a vet, if you've got a clinic, because I know that a lot of the members will have commercial properties, and they run other businesses through those, and so all of those would be eligible to make savings and find optimizations with their energy.
AP's asked a similar question to, I think Nick may have asked earlier on, which is, do you support landlords who don't operate their properties via a property business? Company?
We do, and generally how that scenario goes is that we'll look at the arrangements that they've got in place, and they may well have domestic arrangements set up, and then we'll do a contrast and compare to say, this is what you've currently got, bearing in mind that you're subject to some of the associated kind of differences in terms of how the contracts are handled and the clauses within those contracts. And here's what it would look like if you registered it under your limited company that you also have. And so you can do a direct contrast and compare. And in some cases, there'll be great efficiencies to be found. In the edge cases, there won't be. But as I say, they're predominantly the edge cases that there aren't benefits.
Yeah, but I asked that question earlier about if you've got an HMO, that's classed as a commercial business, yes?
Yeah, that's right.
Or a service.
With a residential element on 5%.
Doesn't have to be under a limited company, does it?
You can be, no, not necessarily. So, I mean, one of the things which is quite good is that it's reasonably flexible. So, if you've got a HMO registered in your personal name, and you've got a limited company, and that limited company is used to operate other elements of your HMO business, then of course you can use that limited company to channel through your overheads associated with your energy and the billing to go through there. And of course that makes the bookkeeping and, end of year accounts and everything easier as well, of course.
It's really simple from our system point of view. When we load a customer on or a contract on, we have to do a drop down menu which says trading type, limited, sole trader, PLC, you name it on there.
Because a lot of landlords have still got their HMOs under a sole agreement, so sole trader, so that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Put them through as a sole trader, that's fine. It just gets credit checked based on the sole trader rather than the limited company was limited.
Yeah. If you're doing a credit score on brand new limited companies, how tight's the credit score? Because we have that with all.
Yeah, it's become more of an issue with credit the last few months, and especially since COVID and the lockdowns. At the minute, energy companies don't really like hospitality because they're scared if they get locked down again, they're going to not get paid for bills and stuff like that. So a lot of companies have changed the parameters of credit scoring and what they'll accept as a bar for hospitality, a different setup for property business, GPs, every different business is now categorized. More so hospitality, that's where the sort of punishing people, or punishing those, but not punishing, it's the wrong word, but
being more stringent.
Yeah, just a lot strict. And I do have that on quite a bit. Even up to, I think it was Friday, we're still dealing with a restaurant we're trying to get on supply. And what's now happened is that the company hadn't put the company accounts in for the year, which they did do 7 days ago. So then that's changed their credit score again, more in their favour. So they've got more options now. The only option he had was to go with SSE, but the tariff wasn't the best. But it's either that or nothing sort of thing because he can't get a supply. What we're able to do now is put him with someone like British Gas or with EDF. When I've checked the prices today, on a better tariff than what we could have offered last week. And so yeah, there's been a lot of changes and just change of parameters and stuff. But it's something we work closely with the suppliers. We'll,
okay, you've answered that.
We're not going to come to you with an offer for the supplier that can't take the supply on, because then what they'll do, they'll credit check, they may fail it and back to square one. We'll get that work done before we come to you with an offer.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple more questions. Sally's mentioned that she signed a contract with a commercial broker for forward pricing, but they changed the tariff halfway through. Something you mentioned earlier on, John, was that realistically, I thought that only happened with personal tariffs.
So as we said, there are a number of energy suppliers and some are bigger than others, and we're familiar generally with those suppliers that do have those slightly sneaky clauses within their contracts. And so when we're looking at a list of energy suppliers and tariffs in terms of identifying the best ones, it's not just about the cheapest pence per kilowatt hour. It's also dependent on the supplier and making sure that the client is aware that with this particular supplier, you need to understand that they've got potentially one of these sneaky clauses in, and they could raise the tariff at some point throughout the duration of the contract. Now, in that respect, if it was really an attractive saving and they were really keen on going with that supplier, then we would look at recommending that they go with a shorter term contract rather than a long contract, so that they're not locked in forever as well. So there are some kind of mitigations that we can put in place around that as well. But yeah, it does and can happen if you are not forewarned or aware.
Anthony, just to add to that question from that person, if they want to get in touch with us, I think the scenario what might be happening is that suppliers change the tariff halfway through, as you've said, but they possibly will have had a letter, and that'll explain, they put the reasons why and what the tariff's changing to. It'll also give them an option to leave the supply with a cut-off date to change suppliers. So I've had one, what day was today? Wednesday. I have one on Monday for a restaurant in Manchester. Same things happened. So we straight away, we've moved them to SSE from Dice Energy. So that's probably what's happened. Then there's probably a clause in that where that person can move.
So they've just said they've sent me a letter. Arrived.
Okay.
Yeah, if they're listening, they want to drop an email over to our email info@tcdenergy.com with a copy of the letter on. I'll have a look at it tomorrow.
No, what they've said is they've sent me a letter too late for me to get out.
Oh,
Sally,
okay.
give him a call. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
can see it. Just
Do you want to scroll down, John, so you've got your contact details there? I'll ask one more question.
There we go.
So Sharon's mentioned that since she's changed supplier from British Gas to E.ON, she's actually had to send meter readings despite the meter being a smart meter. Now, is that usual?
What I'd say in answer to that is, as I said earlier, about the different phases of smart meters across the years. First port of call is to contact E.ON and to the meter and the connections team and ask them to check the SIM card. It may not be transmitting readings properly. I've seen that plenty of times with old smart meters, so it's just the SIM card might need a replacement or a new SIM. Yeah, a new SIM card basically could be just be the problem with that.
God, I thought buying a kitchen and a boiler was freaking hard work. Yeah, buying freaking gas and electric for an HMO seems bloody hard work.
Right.
I
Two more.
I didn't know it was so because I'm not in the HMO market.
It can be a
I'm
bit of a
single.
minefield, and it's why we've really launched this company, because there is a need, there is help needed to help people understand it and navigate it.
Question here, and I don't even know if it's a good one or bad one. It says here, do you deal with? I thought it was a typo error that was going to say LMPG. Well, they're here, but I think it was LPG.
No,
You deal with LPG.
Unfortunately not.
No.
Okay.
Final question then, because that was Nick's stolen one of mine. Very simple. We've got a business. We use 31,000 units electric only per year, including economy 7-day night tariff. Would you consider quoting as the contract ends soon?
100%.
Yeah, definitely. We can look at that. Yeah,
Thought you'd say that.
If it's an economy 7 meter, I'm guessing it may only be available to the 1 year contract at a time. I'd have to see the bill and just have a check over it.
Of course.
But yeah, get in touch.
Another situation to give you guys a call or drop you guys an email. Then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask as well, if that person's listening, they will have or should have had a renewal letter from the supplier of what tariffs they're going on to. If they could also send that with the copy bill, just gives us just able to show savings more as well of what it will go on to or could go on to, what we can do if we can do anything.
Right. Okay, brilliant. Oh, is everybody finished? Because we've run over quite a lot.
Yeah, I was just thinking we've run over a bit there. So
that's Paul's fault. Every time he comes on, we can run over. So them stupid questions he asks. No, but Paul, you asked some really good questions.
No, he did. Yeah.
Paul.
Cheers, Paul.
Yeah.
No, really good questions. Yeah, definitely tell he's in that arena.
John, you need to shut up because you're the one who's why we're running over. Yeah, you need really. And by the way, when you ring John, just make sure he says a 5-minute call. You give yourself 15 minutes.
Just ask for me instead.
Sometime, I can promise you that. If you don't want to speak to him, send him an email.
Please be gentle, Nick. I'm sorry.
I'm the same. I talk about as well. I say 5 minutes, half an hour. I'm still there yakking.
I was worrying about filling the time, so
yeah. Okay. Oh, I haven't said hi to Buddy today. He's one of our regulars that come on. Where are you, Buddy? Put your hand up and wave. Bye. I do like him. Normally I get him. You're not in my front of my screen, Buddy. You were late coming in today. Yeah, because normally he's Buddy, the one I can actually see. But Anthony, so what have we got next week? And before I go, just like to say thank you for both of you for coming on, John.
No,
thanks, guys.
And doing a presentation for us. Really was very good. So Anthony, what we got next week?
Next week we've got Salamander pumps and CombiMate. So it's a bit of a plumbing special. The CombiMate's a really interesting little device. So the science behind that I'll be looking forward to next week. But I actually want to talk about something else right now, which is an email that's going to go out this week. We've got a hell of a lot of stuff happening in November of free stuff that our suppliers are giving away. So Johnston's are giving away 2 luxury hampers, I think worth a couple £100 each. So if you spend Johnston's, you're in the raffle for that. Jewson are doing their wine giveaway this month. So you spend money with Jewson, details of that to follow in an email as well. You get a bottle of wine or couple. I think someone ended up with like 12 bottles of wine last year or something like that. And Protect My Let for Black Friday, they're actually doing it in anticipation of Black Friday this year. all you've got to do is click a link, fill in your renewal date for your insurance renewal, and you're entered into a raffle for £250 worth of Love to Shop vouchers, just in time to spend them all on Black Friday on something that you're never going to use again. So an email is going out later this week. There's a hell of a lot of stuff that the suppliers have just gone mad this month and decided to give everything away.
And yeah, they are going to be able to supply the wine. I don't want a shortage of wine, got a shortage of timber.
You'll have to drink petrol, Nick.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, there's never been a shortage of booze, I tell you. There's been plenty of shortage of everything else. And just also to let everybody know, the last 3 months, yeah, we have had, over 4 months, we have had a record month with Magnet. In October, we did more business in October in that 1 month than any other month in the last 9 years. It's our record month, and our record month before that was 3 months ago. So the last 3 months, it's been absolutely phenomenal. And I know that Magnet would like me to thank everybody for their support and placing orders with Magnet. It's absolutely phenomenal. We carry on, we'll be doing £6 million worth of kitchen orders this year. Absolutely phenomenal. And I'd just like to say thank you very much to everybody that supported us through Magnet. And I know you used Magnet, John, so thank you there as well. But no, it's a lot of stuff going on. And I'll be making 2 announcements this weekend as well. That's really, really quite exciting for what people are doing for LMPG members. And I'll be making announcements this weekend. Okay, that's all I've got to say.
Brilliant. Well, thanks again, John from TCD Energy. Members, if you want to get in touch with them, feel free. They're going to look after you as if you were LMPG members. But I would just ask, get in touch with us afterwards, and we'll see how it goes. And you know, hopefully we've got a partnership on the cards here.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Brilliant.
so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Been great.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, John.
Cheers.
Nice
Good
evening.
night. Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you.